G'day boys, what's going on? Welcome back to Punch Ons. Today I'm going to be going through my first ever tier list. Going to give it a go. I've been having a bit of fun working out how to use all the software and OBS and stuff, and I reckon I've got it worked out. And today I'm going to bring you guys a tier list of the best UFC mic skills. Now, you're probably thinking, well, this has been done before, but I'm not including not active UFC fighters. So we're only talking about the current active roster of people who are actually fighting in 2025. So you won't see Conor McGregor on here. You won't see John Jones on here. You won't see Chael Sonnen. No, none of those guys are going to be included in this tier list. I'm just thinking right now in the UFC, to be honest, it's not the best time for trash talk that we've ever had. But there are a few of the fellas who are still trying to make things interesting and have a bit to say. So I thought I'd unpack that today. Now, just to clarify, we're talking currently fighting UFC fighters. We're also talking about not their general sort of mic skills in interviews and in the pre-fights and stuff. We're kind of just focusing on post-fight Octagon interviews where they're all hyped up, they've just had a win, and they get their chance to shoot their shot and make their call out. Because I swear, a lot of the best sort of UFC promotional material happens at that moment, straight after the fighters had a win, and you've had some all-time legendary call-outs and moments at those type of moments. The pre-fight press conferences and the post-fight press conferences, as we know, are getting pretty stale, and with the reporters just asking the same questions over and over again, and they're just cookie-cutter sort of questions, and Dana cuts the press conferences short before it even starts getting interesting. So a lot of the time when they're in the cage and they've just had a win and their adrenaline's pumping and the fighters they get to shoot their shot and they got their moment to be authentic and real, we get to see the real side of that fighter when their media training kind of goes out the window. So that's what we're breaking down today. I've got a tier list for you here. We've got S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and F tier. And that S tier is reserved for those guys who are the pound for pound, the best shit talkers, the best at seizing their opportunity and calling someone out on the mic when the time arrives. And also I'm kind of considering their enunciation and the clearness and the clarity of their delivery of their post-fight speeches as well. And also I'm giving them bonus marks if they're talking a bit of shit, if they understand the promotional game and they're causing some interesting storylines in the UFC. Down in the A tier, we've got the ones that are on the cusp and they're holding it down and doing an awesome job, and they're always worth listening to, and they're very entertaining in their Octagon interviews, but they haven't quite ascended to that S tier quite yet. The B tier are those guys who I reckon have either got potential or they're past their prime of shit talking, or they're just a little bit too quirky, or they've got something that's holding them back from really being an A or S tier type of Octagon interview fighter person. C tier are people who I reckon are underperforming or they've got something about them that makes them annoying to listen to, or they're just a champion who doesn't have a lot to say. So some of those champs are pretty quiet, and I tried to include all of the UFC champions as well as some other big notable fighters as well. Then in the F tier, that's just reserved for the guys who have got no hype, no aura, nothing to bring any kind of interest or eyes to their next fight, and you might as well not even interview them. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the tier list. I'm going to start dragging them out randomly, and we'll talk about them and put them where they need to go. So we're going to start down here at the F tier, and the first fighter that sprung to mind when I thought of boring, no hype, no interest type of fighters is Belal. Forget the performance. Remember the decision, Muhammad. What's Belal got to say that is interesting in any way? Look, I considered putting him in like a C tier only because he had that one sort of funny moment recently where he called DC fat and told him he was going to beat him in basketball. But other than that, mate, Belal Muhammad, what has he got going for him? And who can remember a single thing that he has said after a fight? Yeah, that's usually a good sign that he's not that great at making any hype in his post-fight interviews. So Belal Muhammad's going to start there in the F tier, and I don't think many people are going to argue with that. Then we're going to go to someone who's going to the C tier, and honestly, that's Alexandre Pantoja. He's one of those champs with who's an awesome fighter, and he's doing his job of turning up and whooping up his contenders in his division. But the guy look, credit to him. He is speaking his second language and he tries to speak English. I work so hard for this. Don't leave Brazil. That was a funny moment. That was so cringe and awkward for Pantoja, but like that goes to show that there's not a lot of hype in his post-fight Octagon interviews, especially if he can't even convince his home Brazilian crowd to stay around and listen to it. I work so hard for this C tier. Oh, poor Pantoja, man. He's gone in C tier, borderline F tier, but at least he's trying and he's emotionally invested. All right, next up, we're going with Jiri Prochazka. Jiri, I'm going to be putting in the B tier. Jiri, if he could speak fluent English, I reckon he'd be really interesting to listen to and he would have great interviews. But he's already got great interviews and he can say like 50 words in the English language. He's got some moments just where he's like, I want to tell everyone here that I am not real samurai. But I go to war and I have perfect storm. Jiri just has those aura-heavy moments. When he wins, everyone loves when a Jiri gets a win and he just is going to say some cook shit on the mic about being a samurai or being a ninja or a ghost or some channeling some ancient demon through his synapses or who knows what Jiri Prochazka's going to do. But I'm always wanting to watch. I want to watch a Jiri Prochazka interview, even if he only manages to string together 2 coherent sentences and he's misusing words. It's still always tense. It's always hype. It's always interesting. So I think he's a rightful contender in there at the B tier. Who we got next? We're going to... Ooh, this guy, Walter Walker. Walter Walker is someone who I considered even putting in the S tier. I reckon he's an underrated... Him and Johnny Walker both, we might get to him later, but Walter Walker is an animal and he gets on the mic and he's like, I want to kill the people in the cage. And he's like, I have 3 different ways to break your knee. Walter Walker, in his second language, is an intense dude and a scary dude. He reminds me of like Hodor. Just a big, dumb, huge, intense animal. Crazy, but I'm not allowed to say animal about people, by the way, anymore. Just ask Guru. Just an absolute crazy man. Hype as, gruffest voice like ever. Sounds like bloody Jimmy Barnes with a chop bone stuck in his throat. I win the fight and it is good. Man, he's definitely A tier. I like listening to a Walter Walker post-fight. I hope he keeps getting wins. All right, now we're going to move on to our first S tier candidate, and that is Julianna Peña. Julianna Peña is probably she is definitely the only women's MMA fighter in this list, but you got to put respect where it's due. You got to give her some credit. Peña is one of the only UFC fighters in the women's divisions who actually talk shit and is good at talking shit. A few of them try to talk shit and they call each other out and do weird stuff like jump on Joe Rogan or kiss Lorosenko or whatever it is. But Julianna Peña, she reminds me of like a women's Chael Sonnen in that she's completely delusional, absolutely full of shit, nowhere near at the top level, but has used her persona and her public speaking skills to get herself a title fight. And respect to her, she's legit. I enjoy watching Julianna Peña fights, and I enjoy watching Julianna Peña media and interviews and stuff. I must say she's probably better before the fight, and I'm maybe overhyping her a little bit here in terms of her post-fight interviews, but I had to have some representation for women's MMA, and I truly believe that Julianna Peña is pound for pound number one best shit-talking women's fighter. So respect to the Venezuelan vixen. Let's go back down to someone who has not got S-tier speaking skills on the mic, and that is fucking JDM, bro. Fucking JDM. I think he tries to pass off as just the Aussie charm and just being the rough, gruff Aussie larrikin who's just turning up and winning fights. But as an Aussie who also is shit on the mic, I think I can even call JDM pretty average on the mic. This guy needs to find his his personality a bit and just drop the nerves and stop just going, unless that's his full style. Like maybe he's just this cold-blooded, just simple dude who just wants to turn up and just got the fight done. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, no, respect to Bilal. He's a tough opponent, but I just wanted to show him that there's levels. There's levels to this game. And yeah, I reckon I did that. He reminds me of how they coach the NRL players or like athletes to respond to media questions in a very simple, boring, nothing kind of way, but he's also shit at that. He hasn't quite achieved his proficiency in the media interviews of the NRL's level, which is basically just, oh yeah, no, it was a good game. Yep, no, the boys did well. Yep, no, it was good to see. No, credit to the opponents. And yeah, no, we'll turn up and do it again next week. He's basically the MMA fighter's equivalent of that. He's just, yeah, no, it was a good fight and I did my best and got away with the win and I'm happy with that. So yeah, JDM, not much to see there on the mic. Let's go to the next one. Let's go with another Aussie in the C tier, and that's going to be Steve Erceg, or should I say Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg. Yeah, no, it was just good to get the win, boys, and yeah, I'm pretty happy that I got the win, and we're going to go back to training. I had a really good camp, and I reckon, I reckon I'll be moving my way up that division and looking for a title shot. Steve Erceg is pretty average on the mic, but I think he's got a little bit more to say and a little bit more pound for pound attitude than JDM does. So Steve Erceg is going in the C tier. Moving on to Rainy DeRitter, and he's going to go in the B tier. I think with potential to move up the list and impress later on, I reckon he needs to get if he keeps getting wins the way he's winning, if he keeps being active, I think he's going to be an absolute fan favourite. He's just a calm, commanding, chill dude with big white teeth, and he just knows that all he has to say is just the simple things powerfully, and he's going to get his response. I'm a big fan of RDR. I can see him moving up the tiers definitely. I just like his calm demeanour, his simple attitude towards the fights, and I can see he's a bit of a cheeky dude as well, and he could talk a bit of shit. He reminds me a bit of, I guess, he reminds a lot of people of DDP, but in the way that he reminds me of DDP here is how he just, I think he would always just be a respectful, chill, non-confrontational type of dude. But if you picked him then he would just relentlessly take you down and do it precisely and quickly in the way that DDP did to Adesanya and Strickland. So RDR, haven't got a lot of proof to put him up in the A tier or the S tier, but I do reckon he's going to be a staple of like clips, and he's going to have some good moments on the mic from here on out. He was real humble and calm and respectful after the Whittaker fight, but I kind of like that vibe as well. I don't think you have to be a douche to be a good post-fight Octagon interviewer, and I'll show you a few people that backs that up a bit later on. All right, moving up to the A tier, I'm going to go with Johnny Walker. Probably a little bit highly rated too, but I just wanted to put him next to Volta. I think they're both kind of funny, random, completely unhinged, and you got no idea what's about to happen, but that's the kind of stuff that makes for good TV. So Johnny Walker, good to see him get a win over Zhang Mingyang. He had a somewhat entertaining interview after that fight, but he was sort of rambling about random shit as well. So I think, yeah, I could hear arguments that he's not as good as I've got him here, but this is based on my subjective enjoyment of watching a fighter's post-fight Octagon, which is what these tier lists are, and that's all you want to see here. So I'm going to go with Johnny Walker in the A tier. And there'll be some other contenders in the A tier there that I reckon maybe some people would disagree with, but we keep on rolling. All right, we're going to go back to the S tier now, and this person, probably controversial as well. I just think based on the effort and the delusional aspect of this guy, he needs to go in the S tier because he's got the type of energy that we want our fighters to have, which is just, I am him. I'm going to call out everyone. I'm going to destroy everyone. No one can hold a candle to me, and I can't get knocked out, which is a big clue that this is going to be Paddy the fucking Baddy Pimblett. We don't get knocked out. Paddy the Baddie is going in the S tier just for his energy. Dana, fight to the night or what, Dana? Hey, fight to the night, come on. Shout out to Guru. I'm just riffing off all these impressions, but he's got it down to a T. So Paddy Pimblett, S tier, pumped up, bloody Beatles-looking motherfucker who just has a most annoying voice, just screams at it, twerks on people. But you absolutely guarantee that Paddy Pimblett's going to have an entertaining post-fight moment. Even if he loses like he did to Jared Gordon, he's still going to pretend he did. He's completely delusional, completely bulletproof. He still hasn't been knocked out, so let him keep running until he does, which will also be entertaining. So it's must-watch TV, a Paddy Pimblett post-fight moment, and I'm looking forward to some more. Moving on to the next one, and we're going to go back down to the F tier. Maybe a bit too harsh for this guy, but he just doesn't interest or entertain me at all. I could be proven wrong in his upcoming fight, but Cory Sandhagen, bro, you're going in the F tier. I think that's very based on personal bias and just never having been particularly impressed by Sandhagen. But he just does run-of-the-mill shit, just says the same things. Like, yeah, I was always going to win that. I'm a more technical guy. Like, I'm looking for it. I'm going to come in for the title. He might have had I think he had a decent interview after he beat Figgy, but that's about as good as it gets for Sandhagen. He's not even interesting in that he's real cringe or annoying or delusional. He's not memorable at all. He reminds me a bit of Bilal Muhammad in that way, I suppose. Maybe that's a bit too harsh on Cory. I am being harsh on him, but he doesn't excite me that much, and I reckon he's going to lose to Merab. But someone's going to be in the F tier, and look, the fact that he's in the F tier, at least he can say that he's on the tier list and he is a winning active member of the UFC who gets a chance to do post-fight Octagon interviews. So, hey, it's not the end of the world for you, buddy. Moving on, we've got in the C tier, and honestly, probably could also be in the F tier, to be honest, and that is Sean O'Malley. Sugar Sean is such a letdown and a disappointment in terms of how his career's panned out. I'm sure he's not done yet, but I think O'Malley is going to be one of those fighters who is content to just say, yeah, man, I won the belt once, and never get back there and never really reach the heights and the expectations that we had on him. But hey, who am I to talk about that? But I still think Sean O'Malley's mic skills are very ordinary. He's had a couple of scripted moments where he's like, "Fob Runt, where are you at?" Or he's saying, what did he say? He called out Aljo. No, Aljo called out him. He called out Merab, I think. But yeah, the fact that I can't even remember how it worked goes to show that O'Malley's mic skills have never been matching up with the expectations. And look, I feel bad for O'Malley but I guess it's just the way he looks and the way he sort of acts, but he's pretty cringe, to be honest, on the mic. And we saw Peter Yan roast him in a different language and shut him down completely when he told him he looks like a prostitute. So I don't think O'Malley ever really recovered from being called a prostitute by Peter Yan. He's going in the C tier. Let's keep going to the B tier. Maybe controversial. Ian Gary's going in the B tier. Ian Machado Gary, the cuck himself, is going in the B tier. Remember, B tier is kind of like they've got something interesting about them, or I do find myself, eyes glued to the TV if he's having a post-fight interview. But you got to admit, Ian Gary is annoying as fuck, and he's just got that whiny, arrogant vibe to him. You're all watching me. You're all paying to watch me. Yeah, dude, he just annoys me to the max, Ian Gary. But you know what? It's entertaining. It is something you want to see because he's just building up. Like, his whole career has just been based on a building up of a fan base of people who want to see him get knocked out. I swear that's what it is. And I'm definitely the president of that society. Ian Gary, just all the context that's happened around him as well with his misses and his fights. And yeah, even though he's probably pretty good on the mic in terms of confidence and that type of thing, he always says something cringy or lame or delusional or out of touch that just makes you want to want to go in there and punch him yourself. So Ian Gary, B tier, but I do like having him in the UFC. We're going to go to another controversial one here, and that's going to be Israel Adesanya going in the A tier. Izzy is an absolute cringe lord, and I'm sort of thinking right now that him and Ian Gary probably belong on the same tier. Izzy said some way more cringy shit than Ian Gary has. But Izzy's had some pretty hype moments as well, and you got to give him credit for him being like aggressive and confident on the mic and willing to say some shit, even if it doesn't stick. He delivers his lines with conviction, such as, "I'll leave you frozen like Elsa." Like, even though that was not a post-fight moment, it was. Even if he's completely delusionally thinking that what he's saying is cool, he delivers it in that way. So I guess delusion is working for him in that regard. But he's also had some good moments. "I hope you all know how this feels one day." When he's just raging about when he knocked out Poatan. "I hope you can all feel this once. Botched." Yeah, my Izzy impression's shit, but you know what I mean. He is pretty decent at riffing on the mic. He's got aura. He's got confidence. He could, like, you reckon Izzy wouldn't look out of place in the WWE. If he was a bit more buff and jacked and maybe grows another boob, then we might see Izzy in the WWE calling out some people. He's got the skills to do it. I think he's at least A tier, sadly. All right, then we're going to go to the S tier again. And this person is, I mentioned him before, Dricus du Plessis. Dricus has had a couple of hype moments on the mic. And what I like about Dricus is he's the perfect balance between cheeky, proud of his country, confident, he's well-spoken, he says what everyone's thinking, he says it with conviction, and he's humble in defeat, and he's graceful in victory and humble in defeat. Humble in victory and graceful in defeat. When he wins, he doesn't shit-talk his opponents, he gives them their respect. And when he loses, like he just did against Khamzat, he got on the mic and said, "I was not the better man. He was the better man today, and I will be back stronger and better than ever. And you watch, I will make my way back to the title. But it is Khamzat's night tonight. He was like a blanket." And yeah, look, he's respectful. He's got the right mix of cheekiness and arrogance. He's like, as I said, a bit like RDR. I reckon if you push him, he'll snap, but not snap really. He'll be precise and effective with the things he says. We saw him make Izzy cry on the mic. We saw him make Strickland cry. I wouldn't fuck with DDP, but I also respect that he's a legend and his mic skills are brutally underrated. I've got to put him in the S tier. He's currently pound for pound probably in the top 3 best mic skills in the UFC. I'll stand on that. But we're going to go back to another fighter, and that is going to be Poatan Alex Pereira. Alex is going to go in the C tier, sadly. As much as I like Alex Pereira, and I think if he had a command of the English language, he'd probably be way more entertaining, and if we knew what he was saying, it would make it way more hype. But even with that, I do think that Poatan's persona is just this rock, this solid, calm, stoic chat of a man who just says... I'm imagining if Poatan was speaking English, he'd just be saying, "Thank you to the UFC for giving me this fight opportunity, and I told everybody I was going to win, and I come and I win, and that is the end." It's not like Yuri. I found myself talking a bit like Yuri. He just seems like one of those humble, stoic sort of dudes, and it's hard to tell because like Portuguese sounds a little bit like blah, 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 blah. So maybe he is talking shit on the mic, but usually when Fabio or his translator, it's normally pretty basic, not that hype type of things. But he does have a good sense of humour and he says some funny shit, and he's got the whole Sharma thing going on, which is kind of funny, and he leans into that a bit and he says Sharma for the crowd and they get into it. So yeah, C tier might be a bit harsh for Poatan because I don't actually know what the fuck he's saying, but for me, I'm not all that entertained by a Poatan post-fight interview. Just the translating puts it off. Let's go to Leon Rocky Edwards, and I'm going to put him in the somewhere between A and B. I'm going to go with B tier only because he hasn't really he's had a couple of stellar moments, a couple of really good moments on the mic, and he's obviously this one's pulled from his legendary post-fight Octagon interview. But he hasn't really had enough consistent moments, and he's pretty weak on the mic in general, and rightfully so. Guru and the boys all rip on him and have good impressions of him. Look, I'm not going to lie. If you ask me what one of the most hype ever post-fight interviews is, and the one that got me the most amped up and fired up, it would have to have been Leon's look at me now, pound for pound, headshot dead. That was all time, bro. That was so good. That got me fired up. That got me feeling the feels, and I was like, that turned me into a Leon fan. Him knocking out Kamaru Usman also helped, but yeah, that moment is a bit of an outlier though for Leon, because I haven't really seen him have many other good moments, and he's quite often been the butt of other fighters' jokes as well. So yeah, I'm going to give him his respect for the pound for pound headshot dead moment, but he's not up there with the A and the S tier guys consistently enough to go up there. So B tier for Leon. While we're there in the B tier, because I've got a lot of those, we're going to put in Chiwiwis.
Yeah, that was a good fight. And, shout out to the Mexican crowd. Shout out to the Mexican crowd and for my Chiwiwis.
Oh, Raul Rosas Jr., the Chiwiwis monster. He's got to go in the B tier just for Chiwiwis alone. I think if he didn't have Chiwiwis, so that's the best thing he could have done, because if he didn't have Chiwiwis, he'd probably be he probably wouldn't even be in the UFC, maybe. No, he's actually pretty decent. So Raul Rosas, B tier just for his Chiwiwis vibes. Another one here, we got Sean Strickland. I'm going to put Sean Strickland in the A tier. His stick's got a little bit old at this point. Yeah. I did it for you fucking guys. But he's decent. He's well-spoken. He's controversial. He fires up the crowd. He got the Australian crowd keen as, and we all owe him a favour in the MMA community for taking out Izzy. But yeah, Strickland, he's not quite up there with the S tier, but he's entertaining to watch. And even if you just walk away from his interview shaking your head and going, this dude's an absolute idiot, he gets watches and he makes it entertaining. So respect to Strickland for that. I'm going to go another one in the A tier here, and that is going to be Dan the Hangman Hooker. The Hangman, bro. I think you need to be able to speak Kiwi or Aussie to kind of understand what he's saying half the time. He's got more of a like Ocker Bogan Aussie accent, like Kiwi Aussie accent thing than I do, and mine's pretty thick. So Dan Hooker, just an absolute psycho. He's a G. He's one of the, he's probably top 5 favourite fighters of mine of all time, just because he's a mongrel and he's from over this way. And but one of my all time favourite UFC moments was just Dan Hooker sitting on the stool covered in blood, just, I love this shit, bro. I love this shit. I fucking love it, boys. While he's just leaking out of his head. So just for the animal vibes, and I got to give him his credit. A tier for Dan Hooker. Just says how it is. Ocker as Kiwi dude. Fucking gets the crowd hype. Yells at shit. Calls his shots. Dan Hooker is the man. He deserves to be in the A tier. Let's go to our final F tier fighter for this tier list, and that's going to be Big Ank. Big Ank should probably be here because he's got absolutely nothing, and he's got the disadvantage of speaking a different language and not even attempting or being trained to speak English. So Big Ank, absolutely nothing to talk about. Might as well just not let him have an interview because he doesn't say anything fucking interesting anyway. So Big Ank, respect, bro. You're a hectic fighter, but you're going in the F tier and you're probably the shittest champion in the UFC at the moment in terms of mic skills and other things. All right, then we got our final C tier pick, and that is going to be Islam Makhachev. Islam, yeah, I'm not going to go too hard on him. He's a respectful dude. He's from that kind of culture where they're respectful and they don't talk a lot of shit, but he has got a good little bit of cheeky. No, you know what? He's actually decent when he's going. Post-fight, maybe not so much because he's too whooped up from Volk to be able to talk properly, but I'm going to put him in the B tier. Islam, he's grown on me over the years. He's always involved in big moments, so you got to give him his respect of being able to turn up after some epic performances, a lot of exertion, and actually still be able to talk in English, in Russian, be respectful. Yeah, respect to Islam. All right, next one is going to be Curtis Blades, and he's going to go in the B tier. B tier for Curtis Blades. Moving on, Aljo, he's going in the B tier as well. Aljo is pretty well spoken. He's a bit like kind of an English-speaking Makhachev, involved in some big moments, can call shit out when he wants to, like calling out Sean O'Malley, getting in some bit of cage beef with him there. He's pretty cringe. He's not that naturally good on the mic, but I don't mind listening to Aljo. He's normally got something interesting to say. Joining him in the B tier is going to be Tommy Aspinall. Tommy Aspinall. I'm just going to shuffle these over a little bit so I can fit the last couple. Yeah, Tommy's A8 on the mic. He's just another one of those respectful dudes. You know, I had a good performance today and I beat Sergey Spivak and he's a great fighter and I want to fight John Jones because I'm the greatest heavyweight of all time. Tommy Aspinall, he's A8. He's nothing special. He hasn't really had a big hype moment. I was fairly frothing when he won the belt, the interim belt, when he beat Pavlovich and he kind of broke down, but his mic skills are nothing special yet. He could get there, Tommy, but he's just that natural kind of chilled dude, so maybe not, but he's a solid contender there in the B tier. Speaking of B tier, we've got my man, Volkanovski. Man, Volk's going to go in the B tier. Like, we've got a few similar type of guys here at the end with Makhachev and Aljo and Tommy and Volk. He's a typical Aussie sort of chill dude. I reckon he's got a bit of mongrel in him, but he's been well trained in terms of what to say. And I think he's been humbled himself a lot by his having his kids and his girls and just the way his career's gone. He's a humble dude. He's respectful, but he's got a bit of Aussie mongrel in him, and he'll tell it how it is. He'll go, you're not getting your hands on this belt, mate. Like, that's my fucking belt. Get your fucking hands off it. I'll teach you a lesson. I'm going to whoop your ass. Anyway, we're talking pre-fight press conference moments, but Volk's, stand up for yourself. Hey, stand up for yourself. Don't let anyone push you around. Hey, stand up for yourself. He's got a little bit of that kind of woggy, masso sort of vibe about him. He's into his specifics and he gets it done. And I like Volk, and he's going in the B tier. Or can I find someone to push up to the A tier maybe out of this? Look, maybe Leon. Leon, just for that iconic moment he had there, I'm going to put him back up in the A tier. But that's more so just because I need extra space here for my final one in the B tier, which is going to be Merab. Hey, guys, I go and I fight so well and I fight all the big opponents and I make him look human. And hey, guys, why you not listen to me? And hey, I have the fight and I win the fight. And yes, Sean O'Malley is great opponent and I fight him and make him look human. Merab, fucking annoying on the mic, to be honest, but kind of hilarious too. And even though his rants go on for fucking longer than this one's going on, I'll still tune in for a Merab post-fight moment. He's just a big ball of energy, just spilling out whatever's in his head, and I respect that. Merab's grown on me heaps. All right, we've got about 5 or 6 left. I'm going to start powering through them. A tier, we have Ilya Topuria. Ilya's just got that kind of cold, calculated vibe sort of before the fights, but after the fights, he's usually a bit more mellow, respectful, but not afraid to call someone out or tell it how it is. And he's so full of himself and confident, as he would be if you were performing the way he is, that it's captivating. It's good to watch Ilya because you really just want to know what his next shot he's going to call is or how he's going to react to the fight. He's making a historic run at the moment, and my eyes are always glued on Ilya when he's in the cage, so it has to be an A-tier candidate. I don't know about this one. Jean Silva, I put him in the A tier, but that's kind of probably not the best spot for him. He just barks like a fucking dog and probably says some funny shit in Brazilian, but I actually think that he's doesn't belong in A. I'm going to put him back down in C. Maybe it would have been in B if I had an extra spot, but this doesn't really count as Mad Mike skills, does it? But hey, it's pretty hype. This is an underrated A tier, and I'm gonna put Lerone Murphy, bruv, in the A tier. Lerone has had a good 2025, and he put himself on the map with that performance against Aaron Pico, and he was pretty sick on the mic afterwards. Volkanovski! He called out Volk, and he sort of sounded like Tommy Aspinall, but half mixed with Jon Snow. And I'm all about it. Lerone Murphy, he's grown on me heaps. He's got a fan, and I reckon his mic skills are actually low-key sick, but he hasn't really had the performances to speak as aggressively and freely about how he wanted to perform. He's always probably felt a little bit underwhelmed after his fight. So the fact that he got a sick spin and elbow finish and got to have a hype moment on the mic, he stole the show, and you got to put some respect on the Miracle. Joining him at A tier is going to be Blessed Holloway. Maxie Holloway, he's going in the A tier. Man, what's not to like about Max Holloway? He's been involved in some of the most historic, epic moments in the UFC. You can't, that doesn't come into his mic skills, but he's one of those kind of, who can I compare him to? Maybe a bit of a more hype version of Volk, I guess. Volk's pretty respectful and calm. Max has had a few moments where he's shouted and screamed, "I'm the best boxer in the UFC, baby." He's a bit more fiery than Volk. He's got his own style. He's obviously got a huge fan base and everyone, and he's been in some massive fights and some massive spots. So you got to say that Blessed is up there. He's probably borderline S tier as well, but his stick gets a bit old with we're gonna find out Saturday night, even though that's not post fight. But yeah, he's not got as many tricks as maybe some of these other guys who are up in the S tier. So I'm going to put Max in the A tier. And then the final A tier candidate that I'm going to put in is Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat has just got that Volta Walker schizo energy of just, I fucking kill everybody, brother. I fucking kill you all. I kill everybody. But other times he's just, yes, I win the fight, and yes, I put on a good performance, and yes, I know I am the better fighter. So he's a schizo. He's a weird dude, Khamzat. I reckon he's got some serious mental problems, that guy. But epic fighter. Now that he's champ, he kind of killed a bit of hype on himself with that last performance against DDP. But I can still see Khamzat getting some regular finishes and just skitzing out of the mic again if he goes and finishes like Imavov or like RDR or something like that. You can tell we're getting like a schizo Abu Dhabi psycho moment on the mic, and I'll be tuned in for that. So Khamzat, borderline S tier, certified A tier on the mic. Let's hope he learns a bit more English and is active enough that we can see a bit more of him. Alrighty. I'm going to roll these around a little bit. Thanks, Peña. Thanks, Paddy. Paddy probably borderline lowest in this tier. DDP solid. I reckon the next three are probably the top three current active UFC fighters on the mic. Maybe you could argue DDP is up there. I'm going to put DDP at number 4. And my number 3, my third most hype, hectic UFC microphone speaker in terms of post-fight Octagon interviews is Michael Chandler. Controversial take. I know a lot of people fucking hate Michael Chandler. He is delusional as fuck, but you kind of need a bit of that. We talked about that with Paddy. Michael Chandler, he's built for this shit. He's going to end up in the WWE, or he might end up as a commentator for the UFC. I hope not, because he's sort of annoying to listen to. But he's got sick mic skills. He's got the right voice for it. He goes aggro. He's got the deep, hectic, Conor McGregor! And he gets right into it. You have to come back and fight somebody and beat somebody. So beat me. That was a hype moment. And even though he forces it a fair bit and he's pretty cringe at times, he's kind of like Israel Adesanya in that you still got to put the respect on that he delivers in the big moments and that he's got shit to say and he's got a name, ready and lined up, and he actually appreciates the art of the story. I reckon he's probably a big fan of Chael Sonnen, and Chael Sonnen's probably a big fan of him too. He's from that Chael Sonnen school of shit talking, but not so much outside of the cage. He sort of is a bit more respectful and logical than Chael, but I'm pretty hyped for a Michael Chandler post-fight moment. He's going in the S tier, probably the third, maybe fourth best current shit talker in the UFC, if I haven't forgot anyone good. Number 2, we're going to go with my man, Derrick Lewis. D-Lou, bruh. You can't argue that Derrick Lewis post-fight moments are iconic. You cannot argue that you didn't laugh. You cannot tell me you did not laugh at every single one of Derrick Lewis's past 5 win post-fight performances, Octagon interviews. He just keeps escalating from strength to strength. He rips his friggin' pants off, swings them around his head, pulls his box out, chucks it over the fence, screams like a friggin' big beast and slams the floor and causes an earthquake. Does the Kai Kara fronts fucking Maori thing. Just goes in and kills everyone and then just says some of the most iconic, funny moments that we've ever had in the cage. Things like old classics such as "My balls was hot" and "Where Ronda Rousey farn ass at," and just shit like that. You can't argue with this one. Derrick Lewis, not the most intelligent or the most articulate or the most confident or even has got the best voice for it, but just in terms of pure pound for pound entertainment and funniness, it's D-Lou, bro. He's number 2. The only person who, in my opinion, in the whole UFC deserves to be above Derrick Lewis on this tier list is Moicano. Moicano, bruh. Come on. Renato Moicano is the king of the post-fight interviews, and he does it in his second language. "Hey, MMA guru, you fat piece of shit." Like when he called out Guru, bro, that was one of the most all-time moments in the UFC. He's just provided a connection and a bridge between the MMA YouTube scene and the actual UFC and the reality of it. He's all time for that. He's all time for his fucking finance books that he summarizes for us after the bike. He's all time for the Moicano wants money moment. He's like, subscribe to my Show Me the Money podcast. Man, come on. 5 probably of the top 10 best, most viral UFC post-fight moments have come from Moicano. He 100% deserved to be at the top of this list. Shout out, a couple of honourable mentions, people who probably have sick mic skills but just aren't really active enough for me to consider them to be active fighters, and those ones were Tai Tuivasa for his shoey moments. I don't think Ty's fighting anymore. Colby Covington, hate him or love him, he's entertaining on the mic, and Henry Cejudo. But these guys here, in terms of the current roster of active, currently fighting, winning, you have to win to get a post-fight interview, so these guys have to have had a win in the recent, the last couple of years. Sorry, Izzy. But, yeah, these are the guys. Let us know if you agree with this list. Let us know if you agree with my placement of the S tier and the F tier especially. I'm probably going to have some Cory Sandhagen or Bilal fans jump on here and call me a fucking idiot, and rightfully so, probably, because, yeah, this is all subjective, but in terms of my subjective view of who I'm most hyped to see do an interview in the UFC, these are the guys right here. And shout out to Moicano, D-Lou, Michael Chandler, Dricus, Julianna Peña, and Paddy the Batty. And shout out to Walter Walker. That dude's a fucking machine. All right, guys, that's going to be it for the video today. Hope you enjoyed my first tier list. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below of who is your most favourite or least favourite fighter in terms of their Octagon interviews. We're keeping it current UFC fighters for this one. So, yeah, cheers for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Punch on.